The Eternal Vigil moved through deep space faster than any Earth-built ship could travel. Hyun stood on the bridge watching stars streak past as they approached the location of the distress signal. It had been 3 days since they left Earth's orbit, and every hour took them further from their home world's defenses. "Contact in 30 minutes, Admiral," Arya announced. "I'm detecting 3 Guardian vessels holding position near the gas giant Kronos 7. Their energy signatures are very low, suggesting minimal power to avoid detection. Are they responding to our signals?" "Not yet, Admiral. They may not trust that we are genuine Guardian forces." Hyun understood their caution. For 500 years, these ships had been alone in space, watching for threats to a galaxy that had forgotten they existed. Their crews would be suspicious of anyone claiming to represent humanity. "Open a channel on all Guardian frequencies," Hyun ordered. "Use Admiral Kang Hyun's personal command codes." The response was immediate but hostile. "Unknown vessel, you will halt your approach immediately," came a stern voice. Guardian forces were recalled to Earth 5 centuries ago. "State your identity and purpose." "This is Admiral Kang Hyun commanding the Eternal Vigil," Hyun replied. "I carry the genetic legacy of the original Admiral. Earth has awakened and the galaxy needs its protectors again." There was a long silence. Then another voice, older and tired, spoke over the communication channel. "Genetic scan confirmed," the voice said. "I am Captain No Way, commanding the reconnaissance vessel Silent Watch, Admiral. We have been waiting a very long time for this moment." As the ships approached each other, Hyun could see the toll that 5 centuries had taken on the Guardian vessels. Their hulls were scarred from countless small impacts. Their weapon systems had been modified and upgraded dozens of times. These were not the pristine ships Earth had been building. These were warships hardened by centuries of experience. "Permission to come aboard, Captain No," Hyun requested. "Granted, Admiral. But you should know that we are not the same people who left Earth. The galaxy has changed us." The docking bay of the Silent Watch was different from the clean, bright spaces of the Eternal Vigil. Everything here was functional, practical, worn from constant use. The crew members who greeted Hyun looked human, but their eyes held knowledge that no human on Earth possessed. Captain No Way was a woman in her 60s, with silver hair and scars on her hands from years of maintenance work. But when she looked at Hyun, he saw something that reminded him of the old Guardian recordings. "Admiral," she said formally, "I report the completion of our mission. For 500 years we have monitored the galactic frontier and maintained watch for threats to Earth. We are ready to return to service." "Captain," Hyun replied, "tell me about the Shadow Swarm." No's expression darkened. "We first encountered them 18 months ago. They consumed the Vega system in 6 weeks. We've been tracking their movements ever since, sending warnings that were never acknowledged." She led Hyun to the ship's command center, where holographic displays showed the swarm's path of destruction. System after system had been stripped clean, their populations consumed or scattered. "They're not like the Vex," No explained. "The Vex wanted to convert everything into themselves. The swarm just wants to consume. They take everything useful and move on, leaving dead worlds behind." "How many ships are in their main fleet?" "Over 3,000 combat vessels, Admiral, plus support ships, manufacturing platforms, and consumption barges. They're essentially a mobile civilization, dedicated to stripping resources from other worlds." Hyun felt the magnitude of the threat settle on his shoulders. Earth's fleet consisted of 47 ships, most of which were still being prepared for combat. Even with Allied refugee forces, they were vastly outnumbered. "However," No continued, "we may have an advantage. The swarm has patterns, weaknesses. We've been studying them for over a year." She activated new displays showing detailed analysis of swarm tactics and technology. They rely on overwhelming numbers and rapid consumption. But they're vulnerable during the transition between star systems when their fleet is spread out for maximum efficiency. "Are you suggesting we attack them in transit?" "Yes, Admiral. But not just us. We've been in contact with other survivor groups. The galaxy may be broken, but it's not defeated. There are species hiding in deep space, refugee fleets that still have military capabilities. If the Guardians returned to coordinate them," Hyun studied the tactical displays. "It was possible, barely. A coordinated strike against the swarm while they were vulnerable could cripple their advance, but it would require perfect timing and coordination between dozens of species." "How long until the swarm reaches Earth?" 6 weeks, Admiral. The scouts have already entered your solar system." Hyun felt his blood freeze. 6 weeks? Arya said we had months. The swarm accelerated after detecting human ship signatures. They remember the Guardians, Admiral. They know what humanity is capable of. Arya's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, I'm receiving urgent messages from Earth. Shadow Swarm scout forces have engaged the outer defense platforms. Captain Song Hae is requesting immediate reinforcement. Hyun closed his eyes, feeling the weight of impossible choices. Earth needed defending, but the only way to save it was to leave it vulnerable while they attacked the main swarm fleet. Captain, no, he said finally. Can your ships make it to Earth? Of course, Admiral. Then that's where you're going. Help coordinate the defense while I gather this alliance you mentioned. Admiral, with respect, the defense of Earth is a lost cause without eliminating the main fleet. You should return with us. No, Hyun said firmly. I won't abandon Earth to chase a desperate plan. But I won't abandon the galaxy either. Area, plot a course for the nearest refugee fleet. We're going to try Captain No's strategy. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The reconnaissance ships departed for Earth, carrying updated tactical information and promises of reinforcement. The Eternal Vigil headed deeper into space, following coordinates that Captain No had provided. Their destination was a hidden asteroid field where survivors from dozens of worlds had gathered. As they approached, Hyun was amazed by what he saw. Hundreds of ships from a dozen different species, all hiding in the shadow of broken rocks and debris. This is Admiral Thys of the Combined Refugee Fleet, came a familiar voice. Admiral Hyun, we have been waiting for the Guardians to return. Ambassador Thys, I thought you were on Earth. I am Ambassador Thys. My sister, Admiral Thys, commands our military forces. The Kalani may be refugees, but we are not defenseless. As the Eternal Vigil docked with the flagship of the refugee fleet, Hyun met representatives from species he had only seen in inherited memories. The crystal-bodied Xerians, the aquatic Nereids, the insectoid Thrix, and others whose names he was still learning. Guardians, said Admiral Thys, her 4 arms spread in a gesture of respect. For 500 years we have fought the darkness alone. We have lost much, but we have also learned. The swarm can be defeated, but only if we work together. What do you need from us? Hyun asked. Coordination, replied Captain Zyle of the Xerians. Each of our species has developed new weapons, new tactics. But we lack unified command. The swarm destroys us because we fight as separate groups. The Thrix have developed quantum disruption weapons, added Hive Queen Kess through her translator. The Nereids have created adaptive shields. The Kalani have perfected rapid deployment tactics. But none of us can implement these advances across species lines. Hyun looked around the assembly of alien commanders. These beings represented the last survivors of civilizations that had once spanned star systems. They had lost everything to the Shadow Swarm, but they had not given up. How many ships can you provide? He asked. 800 combat vessels, Admiral Thys replied, plus support ships and manufacturing platforms. We are ready to fight, Guardian. We have been ready for years, and if we lose, then we die as we lived, said Captain Zyle. Free beings who chose to fight rather than surrender. Arya interrupted with urgent news. Admiral, I'm receiving updates from Earth. The Shadow Swarm scouts have been repelled, but at heavy cost. 3 Guardian ships were severely damaged. Captain Song Hae reports that the main swarm fleet is now only 3 weeks away. Hyun felt the timeline crushing down around him. 3 weeks to coordinate an attack by nearly 1,000 ships from dozens of species who had been fighting independently for years. Admiral Thys said softly, there is something else. The swarm has a weakness, but exploiting it requires a sacrifice that only humans can make. What kind of sacrifice? The swarm's central coordination network is protected by quantum barriers that adapt to any attack. But Guardian ships carry quantum cores that can overload the barriers if detonated at close range. Hyun understood immediately. A suicide mission. Yes. One Guardian ship with its quantum core set to overload could disable the swarm's coordination long enough for our combined fleet to destroy them. But the ship and its crew would be lost. Hyun stared at the tactical displays showing the approaching swarm fleet, thousands of enemy ships carrying the accumulated resources of a dozen conquered civilizations. Behind them, Earth waited with its newly awakened defenses. Around him, the last free peoples of the galaxy looked to humanity for leadership one more time. Hyun's broadcast reached every corner of Earth in minutes. On television screens in homes, on computers in offices, on phones in busy streets, his face appeared with a message that would change everything. People of Earth, he began, 500 years ago, humanity made a choice. We chose peace over power, isolation over responsibility. We chose to forget that we were once the protectors of dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. The images that followed showed the truth. Recordings from the old Guardian fleets, humans working alongside alien species, massive battles against threats that would have consumed entire worlds. Then came the footage from the Kalani homeworld, the beautiful crystal cities being devoured by the shadow swarm. This is what we protected the galaxy from, Hyun continued, and this is what's coming to Earth in 6 months. The choice is ours again. We can remember who we were, or we can watch our world burn. The reaction was immediate and divided. In some places, people gathered around screens in wonder and fear. In others, governments declared the broadcast to be enemy propaganda and ordered the arrest of anyone associated with the Guardian ships. But something else was happening too. Across Earth, more people were awakening. Captain Songhai stood on the bridge of his ship in the Australian desert, surrounded by government troops who had been demanding his surrender just hours before. Now they watched in silence as the ship's systems came online around them. "You want to see for yourselves?" Songhai asked the commanding officer. "Arya, show them the tactical displays." Holographic images filled the air, showing the approaching shadow swarm scout ships. The military personnel stared at the alien vessels in stunned silence. "How long until they reach Earth?" asked the commanding officer. 6 months, Songhai replied. "Maybe less, and behind these scouts is a fleet that destroyed 12 star systems." In Japan, Dr. Yuna was working with refugee Keilani to understand their biological needs. Her hands moved over alien medical equipment as if she had used it for years. Guided by genetic memories she was only beginning to understand. "Your people," she said to a young Kalani named Vess. "How do we help them recover from what they've seen?" "You cannot," Vess replied sadly. "We have watched our entire world die, but perhaps we can help ensure yours does not suffer the same fate." In Brazil, Commander Han Gil was organizing the awakened Guardians into proper military units. Unlike the others, he had military experience from Earth's small conflicts. Combining that with inherited tactical knowledge was creating something new. "The old Guardian doctrine won't work against the swarm," he explained to a gathering of newly awakened commanders. "They're not like the Vex, they adapt faster, consume more efficiently. We need new strategies." Meanwhile, Arya was coordinating between all 47 ships. The artificial intelligence had access to 500 years of technological development that had been stored and updated automatically. She was already beginning production of new weapons and defensive systems. "Admiral," she reported to Hyun, "manufacturing protocols are active. I estimate we can produce a full defensive fleet within 3 months, assuming cooperation from Earth's industrial base." "What about trained crews?" Hyun asked. "Guardian genetic awakening is accelerating. Current estimates suggest 200,000 humans carry sufficient genetic markers for full activation. However, training them will take time we may not have." Hyun studied the reports coming in from around the world. In some nations, governments were beginning to accept the truth and offer cooperation. In others, military forces were still trying to seize the Guardian ships. "The division was slowing everything down. We need to unite them," Park Mira observed. "Earth has to speak with one voice if we're going to survive this." "How?" Li Tae asked. "Half the world thinks we're invaders and the other half thinks we're saviors. Neither is completely right." The answer came from an unexpected source. Ambassador Theiss contacted them from the Kalani refugee ship, now in orbit around Earth's moon. "Admiral Hyun," she said, "perhaps we can help. There are other species hiding in this region of space. Survivors from worlds the swarm has already consumed. If they came to Earth, if your people could see what the galaxy has lost." "How many survivors?" Hyun asked. "Perhaps 500,000 beings from a dozen different species. All that remains of civilizations that once numbered in the billions." Hyun made a decision that would have been impossible just weeks before. "Invite them. All of them. Earth needs to see what we're fighting for." Over the next month, refugee ships began arriving in Earth's solar system. The proud Xerians, whose crystal cities had been among the wonders of the galaxy. The aquatic Nereids, carrying the last samples of their oceanic culture in portable tanks. The insectoid Thrix, whose collective intelligence had once solved problems no individual mind could comprehend. Each ship brought stories of destruction and loss, but they also brought something else, proof that humanity had once protected them all. In our legends, said Captain Zyle of the Zarion refugees, humans were called the Star-Touched. It was said you could adapt to any environment, solve any problem, face any threat. We came to Earth because our legends said the Guardians would return when darkness threatened the galaxy. The arrival of the refugees changed everything on Earth. It was impossible to deny the reality when alien beings were broadcasting messages of hope and desperation to every human communication network. World leaders who had been skeptical found themselves faced with species they had never imagined, all asking for humanity's protection. We need a unified command structure, declared President Chen at an emergency session of world leaders. If Earth is going to defend itself, we can't have dozens of different nations giving orders to the Guardian fleet. Agreed, said Prime Minister Singh. But who commands? The Guardian descendants have the knowledge in the ships, but they're not elected officials. The answer came from an unlikely source. General Park, who had initially demanded Hyun's surrender, stood up in the assembly. I've seen the tactical displays, he said quietly. I've spoken with the awakened Guardians. They know things about warfare that our military academies never taught. Admiral Kang Hyun should command the defense of Earth. He's not even a real admiral, protested another delegate. He carries the genetic memories of the greatest military commander in galactic history, General Park replied. And more importantly, every Guardian descendant will follow his orders without question. Can any of us say the same? The vote was close, but it passed. Hyun found himself appointed as Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Forces, with authority over both human military units and the Guardian fleet. Area, he said after receiving the news. What's our current readiness status? Improving rapidly, Admiral. 38 Guardian vessels are now fully operational. Human manufacturing centers are producing new equipment at maximum capacity. Guardian training programs are active in 47 locations worldwide. And the swarm scouts? Still 4 months out, Admiral. But long-range sensors show additional movement behind them. The main swarm fleet is much larger than initially estimated. Hyun studied the tactical displays. Earth was transforming rapidly, but so was the threat approaching them. The Shadow Swarm had learned from their previous conquests. They were bringing enough force to overwhelm any defense. We can't win by defending, he realized. We need to hit them before they reach Earth. Admiral, Captain Song Hae's voice came over the communication system. My ship is ready for combat operations. So are 12 others. We could intercept the scouts before they reach the inner system. It's too dangerous, Commander Han Gil argued from his ship. We don't know enough about their capabilities. We should stay close to Earth's defensive networks. Hyun felt the weight of the decision. The inherited memories of Admiral Kang Hyun suggested bold action, striking at the enemy before they could establish their full strength. But the rational part of his mind worried about risking Earth's limited defense forces. The decision was made for him when Arya detected something new. Admiral, I'm receiving a distress signal from the outer system. It's very faint, but the pattern suggests Guardian origin. Guardian origin? That's impossible. All Guardian ships are accounted for. Not all, Admiral. According to classified records, 3 deep space reconnaissance vessels were not recalled when humanity withdrew from galactic affairs. They were left on station to monitor for threats. Hyun felt a chill of excitement and fear. If Guardian ships had been watching space for 500 years, they would have information about the Shadow Swarm that no one else possessed. Can we reach them? The Eternal Vigil and 2 escort vessels could make the journey, but it would mean leaving Earth's orbit just as the swarm scouts approach. Hyun looked around the command center at his team, then at the star charts showing the approaching threat. Every choice involved terrible risk, but the Guardian way had never been to choose safety over duty. Prepare the ships, he ordered. We're going to find our people. As the Eternal Vigil prepared for humanity's first interstellar journey in 500 years, Hyun felt the weight of history on his shoulders. His ancestors had once protected the galaxy from threats beyond imagination. Now it was his turn to prove that humanity was ready to be guardians once again. Admiral, Arya said softly, the reconnaissance ships have been alone for 5 centuries. The news spread across Earth faster than any government could contain it. Videos of the massive ships emerging from deserts, mountains, and ocean floors appeared on every news network. People around the world watched in amazement as their planet revealed secrets that had been hidden for centuries. In Seoul, Kim Jin woke up from dreams of starship engines and found himself building devices that should not have been possible with Earth technology. In Tokyo, A woman named Yuna discovered she could understand alien biological systems as if she had studied them for years. In New York, Commander Han Gil felt an overwhelming urge to organize the chaos, to prepare for something his conscious mind could not yet comprehend, but not everyone was ready to accept the truth. This is clearly some kind of hoax, declared Director Chen of the Global Security Council during an emergency meeting. Hidden alien technology? Memory implants? It's science fiction nonsense. President Williams of the North American Federation agreed. These so-called awakened individuals could be terrorists or foreign agents. We need to contain the situation immediately. But containment was becoming impossible. Every day, more people with Guardian genetics were remembering who their ancestors had been. And every day, more buried ships were coming online. Yun stood in the command center of the Eternal Vigil, watching reports flood in from around the world. Arya's voice was calm but urgent. Admiral, 43 ships are now operational. Guardian descendants are awakening at an accelerated rate. However, several governments are moving to secure the vessels by force. They don't understand, Park Mira said, studying the political situation reports. They think this is some kind of invasion. Can you blame them? Li Tay asked. Yesterday they thought humans had never left Earth. Today they're being told we once protected the galaxy. It's a lot to accept. Hyun nodded, but his attention was focused on a new signal appearing on the long-range sensors. Something was approaching Earth from outside the solar system. Something big. Arya, what is that contact? Analyzing now, Admiral. It appears to be a large vessel of unknown configuration. The energy signature suggested is not from the Shadow Swarm. As they watched, the mysterious ship slowed as it approached Jupiter. Then a communication signal reached Earth. The voice that spoke was not human, but Arya translated it instantly. People of Earth, we come seeking the Guardians. I am Ambassador Thys of the Kalani Republic. Our homeworld has fallen to the Shadow Swarm. You are our only hope. The transmission included visual data. The ship was massive but clearly damaged. Parts of its hull were missing and it limped through space like a wounded animal. Inside, the cameras showed corridors packed with refugees. Thousands of beings who looked like giant moths. Their wings folded around small children as they waited in fear. How many survivors? Hyun asked. Approximately 50,000, Admiral. They are the last of their species. Hyun remembered the Kalani from his inherited memories. They were peaceful beings, artists and musicians who had never hurt anyone. Their crystal cities had been among the most beautiful places in the galaxy. Now they were extinct except for the refugees limping toward Earth. Open a channel, Hyun ordered. Ambassador Thys appeared on the main screen. She was tall and graceful, with 4 arms and wings that shimmered like oil on water. Her large eyes were filled with hope and desperation. Guardian Admiral, she said, and Hyun was surprised to realize she was speaking directly to him. In our legends it is said that humans would return when the galaxy faced its darkest hour. Have you come back to save us? Hyun felt the weight of expectation in her voice. This being had traveled across the galaxy based on stories passed down for 500 years. She had brought the last of her people to Earth because she believed in human legends. Ambassador Thys, Hyun replied. We are still awakening. Our people have been asleep for a long time. We are not ready for war. The hope in Thys's eyes dimmed slightly. Admiral, with respect, readiness is a luxury we do not have. The Shadow Swarm consumed our homeworld 1 month ago. They will reach the core systems within years. If the Guardians do not return now, there will be no one left to save. Behind her, Hyun could see young Kalani looking toward the screen with wide eyes. Children who had watched their world die, who had fled across space clinging to stories of human protectors. We need time, Hyun said. Our governments don't even know about our history. Many humans will resist returning to space. Then you must help them remember, Thys replied. Show them what you once were. Show them what the galaxy needs you to be again. The transmission ended, leaving Hyun staring at a blank screen. Around him, his team waited for orders. Outside, he knew that world leaders were probably panicking about alien contact. Everything was happening too fast, Admiral, Arya said softly. I am receiving reports from Guardian commanders around the world. Captain Song Hae has taken command of the vessel in Australia. Dr. Yu Na has successfully interfaced with the ship in Japan. They are requesting orders. What kind of orders? Whether to resist government attempts to seize their vessels, Admiral. Military forces are surrounding several ship sites. Some Guardian descendants are asking permission to activate weapon systems. Hyun felt a chill. The last thing Earth needed was a war between its own people and the returning Guardians. But he also understood why the awakened humans felt protective of their ships. The inherited memories included knowledge of what happened when advanced technology fell into the wrong hands. "Tell all Guardian commanders to avoid violence," Hyun ordered. "We are not conquerors. We are protectors." "Yes, Admiral. But what if government forces attempt to board the vessels?" Before Hyun could answer, Lee Tae called out from his station. "Hyun, you need to see this. Long-range sensors are picking up more contacts." The display showed a new set of signals, these ones coming from deep space. As Arya analyzed them, her voice became tense. "Admiral, these signatures match Shadow Swarm scout vessels. They are still months away, but they appear to be investigating the Kalani refugee ship's trajectory." They followed them, Park Mira realized. The swarm followed the refugees to Earth. Hyun stared at the approaching signals. Earth had perhaps 6 months before the scouts arrived. And behind them would come the main swarm fleet, the force that had destroyed dozens of civilizations. A new communication came in, this time from the South Korean government. "Dr. Kang Hyun," said a stern voice. "This is General Park of the National Defense Ministry. You are ordered to surrender yourself and your vessel immediately. This technology belongs to all humanity, not to one individual." "General," Hyun replied, "with respect, you don't understand the situation. Earth is about to be invaded by a hostile alien force. These ships are the only thing that can protect us. We will determine how to protect Earth," General Park replied. "You will comply or face the consequences." The communication ended. Arya immediately began reporting military units moving toward ship sites around the world. In some places, awakened Guardians were peacefully explaining the situation to local authorities. In others, tensions were rising as governments demanded control of technologies they didn't understand. "Admiral," came another voice over the communication system. This was Captain Song Hae from Australia. "Military forces are demanding we surrender our vessel. My crew is ready to resist if necessary." "No," Hyun said firmly. "We do not fight our own people. Find another way." "What other way?" Song Hae asked. "They don't believe us about the threat. They think we're dangerous." Hyun looked around the command center searching for an answer. His team was watching him, waiting for leadership. The Kalani refugees were counting on human protection. The Shadow Swarm was approaching, and Earth's governments were treating the returning Guardians as enemies. "Arya," he said finally, "can you show me the current status of all awakened Guardians?" "Certainly, Admiral." A holographic map of Earth appeared showing the locations of all active ships. Red dots indicated sites where government forces were present. Green dots showed areas where local cooperation had been achieved. Too many dots were red. "We need to change how people think about this," Hyun said. "They're afraid because they don't understand." "Show me the most advanced Shadow Swarm footage we have." Arya displayed images from the fallen Kalani homeworld. Beautiful crystal cities were being consumed by dark, insect-like creatures that swarmed over everything. The planet's surface was being stripped bare, turned into a lifeless husk. "Can we broadcast this to Earth's communication networks?" "Yes, Admiral, but it would be considered an act of cyber warfare by most governments." Hyun thought for a moment. He could try to work within Earth's political systems, but that would take months or years. Time they didn't have. Or he could force the issue, make humanity face the truth whether they wanted to or not. "Admiral," Theis's voice came over the communication system again. "Our sensors show military forces approaching your position. If Earth's governments capture the Guardian ships, will you still be able to protect us?" Hyun looked at the images of the swarm's destruction, then at the red dots showing government forces surrounding Guardian vessels. His people had chosen to forget their role as protectors 500 years ago. Now they would have to choose again whether to fight or to run. Inside the ship, everything was clean and bright. The corridors were wide enough for several people to walk side by side. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Hyun felt his footsteps echo as he followed Arya's voice deeper into the vessel. "Please proceed to the command center, Admiral," Arya said. "The reactivation process must begin immediately." Park Mira walked close beside Hyun, her scientific mind trying to understand what she was seeing. "The technology here is centuries ahead of anything we have on Earth," she whispered. "These power readings are impossible." The command center was a large circular room with a chair in the center. Around it, dozens of screens showed star maps and data that Hyun could not understand. Yet when he looked at them, something in his mind seemed to recognize the patterns. "Please sit, Admiral," Arya requested. I will begin downloading the suppressed memories. This may feel strange at first, Hyun hesitated. Everything rational in his mind told him to leave, to report this discovery to the government and let others handle it. But the ship felt right somehow, like coming home after a long journey. He sat in the command chair. Immediately, a gentle tingling sensation spread through his body. Images began flashing in his mind. At first, they came slowly. A star-filled sky, ships moving through space, alien faces that looked at him with friendship and respect. Then the memories came faster. He saw himself commanding a vast fleet of human ships. But it was not really him. It was his ancestor, Admiral Kang Hyun, whose memories were somehow stored in his genetic code. Through those memories, he experienced humanity's golden age among the stars. Humans had not conquered other species. Instead, they had protected them. When the peaceful Kalani were threatened by space pirates, human ships arrived to drive them away. When a plague struck the aquatic Nereid homeworld, human doctors worked for months to find a cure. When asteroid storms threatened the crystal cities of Zarian, human engineers built massive shields to protect them. Other species called humans the Guardians. They were known throughout the galaxy for their courage, their cleverness, and their refusal to abandon those in need. Human ships appeared wherever there was trouble, and somehow they always found a way to help. But the memories also showed the Great War. The Vex Collective had been unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were a hive mind. Billions of creatures controlled by a single intelligence. They consumed entire worlds, turning everything into more of themselves. Planets that had thrived for thousands of years became empty husks in a matter of months. At first, other species tried to fight alone. They failed. The Vex spread like a disease, consuming system after system. Finally, in desperation, the galactic community called for help from the only species that had never lost a war. Humanity answered. The war lasted for 7 years. Human fleets fought in hundreds of star systems. They developed new weapons, new tactics, new technologies. They saved dozens of civilizations from extinction. But the cost was terrible. Millions of humans died in the fighting. Entire fleets were lost when they stayed behind to cover civilian evacuations. Earth's population fell by half as young people volunteered to join the fight against the Vex. In the end, humanity won. The Vex Collective was destroyed, their hive mind shattered. The galaxy was safe. But Earth's leaders looked at the cost and made a difficult decision. Humanity had given enough. They withdrew all human ships from galactic space. They erased all records of humanity's role as protectors. Using advanced technology, they removed the memories from Earth's population. Only a few genetic markers remained, hidden in certain families, waiting for the day when humanity might be needed again. The memory download is complete. Admiral, Arya announced. Hyun opened his eyes, gasping. The memories felt as real as his own childhood. He could remember commanding battles he had never fought, visiting worlds he had never seen. But he also understood now why his people had chosen to forget. How many humans died in the war? He asked quietly. 47 million combat deaths, Admiral. Another 12 million civilians killed in Vex attacks on human colonies. Hyun felt the weight of those numbers. His people had saved the galaxy, but they had paid a price that no species should have to pay. And now there's a new threat, he said. Yes, Admiral. The Shadow Swarm appeared in the Outer Rim 3 years ago. They are different from the Vex, but equally dangerous. They strip planets of all resources, leaving them dead and empty. Several civilizations have already fallen. Li Tae was examining the ship's manufacturing systems. Dr. Kang, he called out. You need to see this. This machine can build anything. Weapons, ships, even food. The technology is incredible. Cho-un was studying the alien languages in Arya's database. These translation systems are perfect, she said in amazement. They can communicate with any species instantly. But Park Mira was looking at the star maps with concern. Hyun, according to these readings, were not the only ones being activated. Similar energy signatures are appearing all over Earth. The other ships are awakening, Arya confirmed. As the Eternal Vigil came online, it sent activation signals to the rest of the buried fleet. Soon other descendants of the Guardian families will begin to experience memory returns. As if to prove her point, communications began coming in from around the world. Reports of strange dreams, of people suddenly understanding technologies they had never seen before. In South Korea, a farmer named Kim Jin found himself able to repair alien machinery he had never encountered. In North America, A pilot named Ryu Bo discovered he could navigate by star patterns no human had seen for 500 years. The genetic activation is spreading faster than expected, Arya noted. It appears that humanity has evolved during the isolation period. Your species has become more adaptable, more resilient. Yun stood up from the command chair, feeling different than he had an hour ago. The memories were his now, but they did not feel like a burden. They felt like a gift, knowledge passed down from his ancestors to help him face whatever was coming. Arya, show me the current threat level, he ordered. Holographic displays filled the room with tactical information. The Shadow Swarm had already consumed 12 star systems. Millions of beings had died or been displaced. Refugee ships were fleeing in all directions, but there was nowhere safe to go. How long before they reach populated systems? Hyun asked. At their current rate of expansion, the swarm will reach the galactic core within 10 years. Billions of lives will be lost. Hyun studied the displays and strategies began forming in his mind. Not his strategies, but those of Admiral Kang Hyun adapted for this new threat. The knowledge was there, waiting to be used. What about Earth's governments? Park Mira asked. They won't understand this. They'll think we're crazy or dangerous. That is a significant concern, Arya agreed. Earth's current political structure is not prepared for galactic involvement. There will be resistance, Hyun nodded. He could already imagine the reaction when world leaders learned that everything they thought they knew about human history was wrong. Some would deny it. Others would try to take control of the technology for their own purposes. But the memories of Admiral Kang Hyun included something else. Knowledge of how to lead, how to inspire, how to unite people behind a common cause. Humans had done it before. They could do it again. Arya, can you contact the other awakening ships? Yes, Admiral. Communication links are being established now. Good. Send a message to all Guardian descendants. Tell them it's time to remember who we really are. As Arya sent the signal, Hyun felt a change beginning, not just in himself but in humanity as a whole. The quiet farmers and scientists of Earth were about to remember that they were the children of star-traveling warriors. And the galaxy was about to learn that its protectors had returned. Admiral, Arya said softly, there is something else you should know. Long-range sensors have detected scout ships at the edge of our solar system. The Shadow Swarm has found Earth. Hyun felt his blood turn cold, but along with the fear came determination. His people had chosen peace 500 years ago. Now they would have to choose to fight again. How long do we have? 6 months, Admiral. Perhaps less. Hyun looked at his team, then at the star map showing the approaching threat. 6 months to prepare Earth for a war most humans didn't even know was coming. Then we'd better get started. The hot desert wind blew sand across Dr. Kang Hyun's face as he wiped sweat from his forehead. For 3 weeks, his team had been digging in this empty part of the Gobi Desert. The metal detector readings were strange, stronger than anything they had seen before. But so far they had found nothing but rocks and sand. Dr. Kang, called Park Mira from across the dig site. You need to see this. Hyun walked over to where Mira was kneeling beside a large hole. At the bottom, something dark and smooth reflected the sunlight. It looked like metal, but not like any metal he had ever seen. The surface was perfect, without rust or damage. How deep does it go? Hyun asked. We don't know yet, said Lee Tae, their equipment specialist. But the metal detector says it's huge. Maybe the size of a building. Hyun felt his heart beat faster. In all his years as an archaeologist, he had never found anything like this. The metal looked too advanced, too perfect to be from any known civilization. Earth's history book said humans had always lived simple lives. They had never built anything this sophisticated. Get everyone down here, Hyun ordered. We're going to uncover this thing. For the next week, the team worked without rest. They brought in bigger machines and more workers. Slowly, the sand revealed more of the mysterious object. It was not a building. It was something much more incredible. It was a ship. The ship was enormous, at least 200 meters long. Its surface was smooth and silver, covered in strange markings that looked almost like writing. There were no visible engines or weapons, but somehow Hyun knew this machine was built for space travel. This is impossible, whispered Cho-eun, their language expert. Humans never built spaceships. We barely have rockets that can reach the moon. Hyun stared at the ship in wonder. Everything he knew about human history said this should not exist. But here it was, buried in Earth's desert for who knows how long. Look at this, Mira called out. She was standing near what looked like a door. The metal around it was different, covered in symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Hyun approached the door carefully. As he got closer, the symbols began to glow brighter. When he was just 1 meter away, a section of the wall suddenly became transparent. Behind it, he could see corridors and rooms filled with strange equipment. "How is it doing that?" Lee asked, his voice shaking. "I don't know," Hyun replied, "but I think it knows we're here." A soft beeping sound came from somewhere inside the ship. Then, a panel next to the door began to glow blue. Without thinking, Hyun reached out and placed his hand on it. The moment his skin touched the panel, everything changed. Lights raced along the ship's hull like lightning. The desert around them was suddenly filled with a low humming sound. The door slid open silently, revealing a corridor that glowed with soft white light. Then a voice spoke. It was clear and calm, speaking perfect Korean. Biometric scan complete. "Welcome back, Admiral Kang Hyun. It has been 537 years, 4 months, and 12 days since our last mission." Hyun stumbled backward, his heart pounding. The voice continued. "I am Arya, your ship's artificial intelligence. All systems are operational. Shall I prepare the ship for departure?" "What?" Hyun gasped. "Admiral, I'm not an admiral. I'm an archaeologist." "My apologies, Admiral," Arya replied. "You have been away for a long time. Perhaps you need a memory refresh. Please step aboard so I can begin the reactivation protocol." Hyun's team stood frozen, staring at him in shock. Park Mira was the first to speak. "Hyun, what is happening? How does this machine know your name?" "I have no idea," Hyun said. But something deep inside him felt strange, like a memory trying to surface. The ship seemed familiar somehow, even though he had never seen it before. "Admiral," Arya said again, "the galaxy has been waiting for your return. Several civilizations have sent distress calls. Your fleet is needed." "My fleet?" Hyun asked. "I don't have a fleet. I don't even know how to fly a spaceship." Suddenly, holographic displays appeared in the air around the ship. They showed star maps, battle formations, and images of strange alien creatures. One display showed Earth from space, but it looked different. There were structures in orbit that no longer existed. "This is your ship, the Eternal Vigil," Arya explained. "You commanded the 3rd Human Defense Fleet. Your genetic pattern matches Admiral Kang Hyun exactly. You are his descendant." Hyun stared at the displays in amazement. One showed a man who looked remarkably like him, wearing a military uniform covered in symbols from dozens of different worlds. The man was standing on the bridge of a starship, surrounded by alien beings who looked at him with respect and trust. "According to my records," Arya continued, "humanity chose to forget their role as galactic protectors 500 years ago. The war with the Vex Collective had ended, but at great cost. Earth's leaders decided that humanity had sacrificed enough. They erased all memory of our spacefaring civilization and withdrew from galactic affairs." "That's impossible," Cho Yoon said. "Our history books would mention something that important." "The memory erasure was complete," Arya replied. "Only genetic markers in certain family lines preserved the ability to reactivate our systems. The plan was that if humanity was ever needed again, the ships would respond to their descendants." Hyun felt dizzy. Everything he thought he knew about human history was wrong. His people were not primitive farmers and scientists. They had once traveled between the stars, protecting other species from threats too terrible to imagine. "Admiral," Arya said, her voice becoming urgent, "I must inform you that several civilizations have fallen while waiting for humanity's return. The galaxy is in danger again. A new threat has emerged, and only the human fleet can stop it." Hyun looked at his team, then back at the incredible ship. Part of him wanted to run away, to pretend he had never found this place. But another part, a part that felt ancient and strong, was already understanding what he had to do. "Show me," he said quietly. "Show me what's happening out there." The holographic displays changed, showing images of dead worlds and burning space stations. Arya's voice was sad as she explained, "This is what remains of the Kalani Republic. This was the Thorian Empire, all destroyed by something called the Shadow Swarm. They consume everything in their path, leaving nothing behind." Hyun felt a cold fear settle in his stomach, but along with the fear came something else, a sense of purpose he had never felt before. "How many ships are there?" he asked. 47 vessels are buried across Earth, Admiral, all waiting for the call to return to service." Hyun took a deep breath and stepped toward the ship's entrance. His team followed nervously behind him. "Then I think it's time to wake them up."